Greetings, 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 greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 481. Statutory trust documents versus private trust documents. Definitely want to do this episode today. Appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. We know you're going to get a ton of value out of this. This is Trust Christian in the Vault. If you want to enroll in Trustee Training after this episode or anything after you hear after this point, feel free. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that email you can reach out to is Christian at trustchristian.com. We definitely got to say this isn't legal advice or financial advice, this episode, but this is an episode that we're going to comment on basically the things that we've heard for years in consultations, people enrolling in trustee training and the things that they say and how they compare to what we're talking about over at the vault and the trustee training and the private trustee training that people inquire about. So we get inquiries on the daily. It's nothing new. We've been going for years now, and we just want to thank everybody that's reached out throughout the years and you listen to this episode. So, statutory trust documents versus private trust documents. This is one of those episodes where you know, people come to the vote all the time. Oh, I created my own trust. I mean, pretty much that's what they're going to say. They're going to hop on the line. They're going to say, oh, I created a trust. I got a trust. Someone created a trust for me. All of these good things. And so, that's what we hear. If they're coming with that type of conversation, that's what we hear. Hey, somebody created a document. Hey, somebody was supposed to create a document. Hey, I started a process with someone I didn't finish. I want to make sure I'm doing this process right. Hey, I heard about the private. Someone was starting the public one for me. I kind of heard that it was statutory because, you said that it was done by a public lawyer, or, you mentioned that, it was public because it was a domestic one. That's what's going on. Appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got Jersey City for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Jersey City for tuning in live, listening to replay. Back into it. So the statutory trust documents versus the private trust documents are what people reach out to the vault all the time and say, oh man, I got my trust set up, but I want to know about the private because I think that it's not set up the right way. And I didn't learn much about it. They just set up a document and then skedaddled and ran away. Or they just charged me for a document in the public and skedaddled and ran away. And it's almost the same thing with these internet guys with this private stuff too. So, I'm kind of hesitant on dealing with you. And don't think we don't hear it at the vault. They still come to the vault and say they hesitant, but they know they're not private. That's a fact. So they have statutory trust documents. So how I know it's statutory? Because I'm trying to be in control of my government name. I'm trying to be in control of my statutory name. Oh, statutory trust documents. It isn't hard. I'm trying to capture the public. I'm trying to capture the statutory. That's why you got a statutory trust document. I'm trying to do anything with the birth certificate and the social statutory trust documents. The origination of those things are from acts from the public. You got private people talking about they're gonna use public acts to use public statutory trust documents. That's what's going on. No one wanted to tell them. It's interesting to see that where the audience may be over the internet. We're so far out of that space. We moved in. You got to move into when you move into the private, you're moving into wealth management. So when we see the statutory trust document stuff, it's nothing against it. We're not talking against it. We're talking to when people inquire at the vault what they can expect, what they hear, what's the difference. Whereas the statutory trust document, we get those conversations all the time in consultations. People come through, they say, hey, I know that I'm not private, so what's going to be the difference, and how can we be trained to be more in the private position, whereas I already know. And this is the interesting part. When you hop on the line, even in trustee training, we go over that it's over 80 different types of Trust documents. There's a bunch of different documents out there. I mean, whether it's a template or not, right? There's templates for the statutory trust documents. There's templates for the private ones. What's interesting is people are selling them. They just selling it. But we do the training over here. We introduce people to relationships and resources. When you talk about the community that people have reached out for years and say, oh man, I just want to make sure I can get in that. I heard about the community. I need to get access to the people. That's what really people want to do. They want to get access to what? People? Oh, okay. They want to get access to people. And then we understand you. Why wouldn't you want to get access to the people in the private? When you're in the private, you want to operate with other private people. But let's stick to this statutory one. So they come to the vault and they say, oh, I already got it. Somebody created it for me. We gonna stay on this. Oh, we not leaving. We're going to stay right here on this particular one because this is the one where are you showing a level of student mentality when you say, oh, I'm looking to go into the private or learn trustee training. This isn't get the doc and skedaddle. But people say, oh, they selling stuff over the internet. That's fine. People are selling stuff over the internet. What about training? That's what we provide at the vault. So when you ask what we do over here at the vault, the logo, the vault, trustee training. Whereas they got a bunch of different type of, organizations out here selling this and selling that. Sometimes you can't buy relationships. Sometimes you have to have the years in with those relationships. So how do you justify that? Appreciate Memphis, Tennessee for tuning in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate Memphis, Tennessee for tuning in live, listen to replay. We usually do an episode on Tuesdays, and we got some great things going on right now at the vault, and so we just are, we got things going on. So this is the episode. It's done on a Monday. You all can listen to it in the replay, or if you're listening live, we definitely appreciate you. Statutory trust documents versus private trust documents. This is something that if you had a 10 out of 10, if you had 10 out of 10 calls, 4 or 5 at least are saying that they already got something. But it's from the public. Whether they were the grantor, whether they got someone in the public that created and they don't know how to use it. Okay. So where'd you get the trust documents then? If you got them in the public, where'd you get them from? Did you get them from the lawyers? Did you get them from, on the internet? Where'd you get them from? This is the training. This is the difference in the training. Because of course somebody's going to try to say you something. They want to shortcut the shortcut. There is no shortcut when it's a system. Just like we went through public school and or any school system, there's a system. You go through the system sequentially, and if you have certain wherewithals, maybe you can skip grades. But when you talk about wealth system and things of that nature, this is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to type into the chat whatever questions you have. Definitely always appreciate any questions. So you feel free to type them into the chat. This is one of those episodes to address the ones that come maybe even with those questions. That little bit of information that we've just gone over so far is what quite a few people come on the line and say. It's really a few responses to, well, what's the difference versus the private? Well, the statutory, they'll come on the line and say, I'm trying to capture my social. You're trying to capture a statutory trust document. It's a public. Oh no, I'm trying to turn it into the private. How? It's not private. It's not set up for it to be private. How can it be private when it's a public document? It's created off a public act called the Social Security Administration Act, if that's the case. These are public acts that created these type of things. It wasn't like granted, maybe some private people wrote the document and then they introduced it into public for public people. Private people wouldn't have what you call that number. So when we have people hop on the line and they say, oh, well, I'm in the public and, I don't want to use the social, but I'm trying to take control of it with a statutory trust document. That's what they say. It's been over 4 plus years. In this episode, I'm trying to capture it. Okay. Statutory. And we're not mad at it. Ladies and gentlemen, have fun with these thoughts. If people want to continue to pursue that route, thinking that they should get some money from some statutory trust entity. Oh, I should be able to get money from the statutory trust. Think about what you're saying. You're trying to get money from the statutory trust. We could put it statutory, we could put public trust. It doesn't matter. It's public statutory. It's the same thing. So public statutory trust. That's the government trust. So how is someone saying they want to go into the private, but they talking about trying to get money from the government trust? They talking about trying to utilize the government trust. Private people don't utilize those government instruments. It's okay. We don't need welfare. We don't need handouts. We're going to have to create. Even if we have to have one pair of shoes for a while, we'll have one pair of shoes. Whereas in the public, they're willing to go in debt for a car. They're fooled by the fact that they can still live in the same property and not have to pay interest and have freedom. Because the public has a different set of benefits and privileges, responsibilities and duties. The private trust documents have different responsibilities and duties. That's what makes one private. Just like in the public, oh, you're a public officer. They want to say, they come with a line, oh, I'm trying to, figure out something with this social. The government is doing this, the government's doing that. Think about what you're occupying your energy with. The government, the public, the statutory trust documents. Instead of thinking about the private family last name, what can we do out of thin air? Can we create out of thin air? Or should we go blame the government and say we should get some money from the government trust? Yeah, right. And that's the thing. So we're talking to the people that reach out to the vault and they have that thought process maybe. Oh, I wanted to get into training. I heard about the training and, I got my document already and I just really want to go through the training. I want to know, what is the training going to give me that I don't already got? What is the training going to give me? The training is private trustee training. You're in the public. And we still invest in going to private trustee training events that don't advertise on the internet and don't care if you show up. So we understand the same exact thing that people may listen to the phone and say, oh, wow, it's a logo, not really a lot of information other than just what's being said. Hey, then that's what it is. But we understand that this information definitely is through the whispers and through the word of mouth of the fact that wealthy people don't want people to know. So when we're talking about it in a way in which we're saying, well, even people in the public have these conversations. They reach out to us from the public and they inquire about the private. And they say, oh, well, somebody else created it for me, or, whatever the thing is. And this is the thing. We're going to keep getting them because they keep saying someone created something for them. They're going to say that they have their own. And that's the difference between the trustee training. It's understanding how to correct your speech. That's the facts. In the private, it's trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. It's definitely want to do this episode, a simple episode, about these statutory trust documents that people inquire about, that they have in their hands. It's funny. We actually have, well, okay, so out of 10 trustees, 4, once again, have these public docs. And they'll say, hey, Trust Christian in the vault, can you read over them when we meet up? When we send them to you in the mail? Because they want us to read over it. And what we actually pride ourselves on at the vault is for you to see what we provide, and then you get to compare it. The trustee training to that, to the things that, oh, some people say, oh man, this person barely even finished it. This person didn't even train me on it. Right. Oh, we have ours in something that a lawyer set up from years ago. Right. And here we are now, where you're in the private sector and you can see it. And we go over everything with our trustees. It's trustee training, ladies and gentlemen. It's not sell you anything. Oh man, I'm gonna just go get the statutory trust documents and then I'm gonna get into private trustee training. And I'm gonna still try to use the statutory trust documents because I don't want to fully commit to the private because I'm still squirrely because I've been trained in the public. But I really don't want to use the social. I really don't want to use any of the public stuff. But I want to use the public stuff to discharge debt. This is what they say, ladies and gentlemen. I really want to still discharge the debt. They want to discharge the debt. Oh, I got a debt. That's what they're doing it for. We got mentors that build houses from scratch. Some of them with their own hands. So let's not go there. Somebody typed into the chat, why in the world would people want a statutory trust? Because when they're there in the public, that's what they know. When they're in the public, that's what their thought process is. When you're in the public, you're dealing with the public attorneys. That's what you know. The only thing is, when you say you're looking to go private and then you're making the transition, why are you still thinking about the public and trying to capture any public anything? You want to know why? Because you can't leave the dead dead. You can't leave the old life alone. You like debt. You can't not live without debt. Cannot, will not figure it out. But they live off of this is what, whether y'all want to know it or not. Here we go. The statutory trust documents allows them possibly to build credit. They don't say it because they don't even know it at times. But think about this. They also want to discharge. So they also know that they can use it for credit. So statutory trust documents, that's how the people are, when you say, oh, why are they still trying to use them? That's why. When we hear them and they talk about it, oh, I'm trying to do something with what we just talked about. Dead. Then we'll get guys, we sat down with family and they say, I got a lot of people around me that actually are in statutory trust documents and they just don't know about the private. That's all it is. And so that's how it happens, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the vault moves the way it moves and is handled itself the way it's handled itself. Because when we do engage with those type of individuals, that's something that people are not necessarily upset or disappointed by, but they're looking to say, okay, I want to know more information about something that I was given not all the information about. They weren't given that there was a public and a private side. They almost see it in the public and they're saying, well, I thought I was in that person's position, or I thought I was close to that position, and they're not. Well, people say public and private don't mix. Well, we need all the trustees to put that on your door before you walk out the house every day, if that's the case. Because when trustees want to say public and private don't mix, and you think you're living those words through the internet, that means you gotta stop doing the public stuff. See, this is what they don't want to hear. They're still using the social. Y'all don't want to hear trust Christian vote. What we need to use social for? For what? Oh man, I'm trying to build credit. Exactly. That's what they really want to say. Oh, I gotta have a credit card or something like that. That's what they got it for. Oh, I need a house to get in. I need to get a house, right? Look, this is the hard truth. If we're going to be on the internet today, we're going to tell you how we hear it because they don't want to say it. This is what their lawyers say to them when they come on the line with Trust Christian and Vote. Well, hey, Rimple Dimplestein. Hey, this is what the lawyer says to you. So how are you going to buy a house if you put all your assets in a trust now? How are you going to buy everything? This is what the lawyer says to you. How are you going to buy everything? You see how they keep throwing it back on who? You. The statutory trust documents. So when you get in the private sector, there is no you. It's trust Christian owned enough to control everything. The unfortunate part is that the Rimple Dimplestein lawyers. If they're living that way, they just didn't tell you that. And then we've had Rimple Dimplestein come online and tell the trustees before they get in, oh well, if you do that, you won't be able to do anything in your name anymore. Oh, sorry, that's the reason why you're on the line with Trust Christian in the Vault. Someone said, how does the how does the trust how does the trust buy the house if it can't get credit? There you go. We're into the consultation now. This is where we are. We're 30 minutes in. This is what they say. How is the trust going to buy a house if I don't have credit? But they too scared to ask it sometime because they know they might not have enough money to go in the trust to buy a house cash. Because they want to get some big house, some $400,000 house, some $500,000 house, some $600,000 house, some $1 million house. And they don't even have $30,000 in savings. They don't even have $50,000 in savings. They don't even have $100,000 in savings. But they want a $400,000 house. That's the public statutory trust documents. You want to know what documents created those? Go look at the documents that created banking expansion in the public. Then you get these guys, they coming into the private trustee training, and then they still say, well, I'm trying to learn how to do the money expansion with the public trust documents too. Let's say it again. They're trying to learn how to do the money expansion with the statutory trust documents too. Because they didn't want to go private. Because they didn't understand that public and private don't mix. When you become a private trustee, you have to let go of your public trusteeship. But oh no, they don't want to give it up. Why? Because they want to utilize debt. They want to influence and put debt in the market. Oh, we saying it today. Private trust documents. Oh, I got to figure out how to issue a debt. I got to figure out how to get a debt on the private situation because, I deserve to live in a big house. I deserve to get all of that stuff. Creating it out of thin air, because they create money out of thin air. Okay. So we're going to go back to, once again, the statutory trust documents from the Federal Reserve and all these different organizations that have their acts that have enacted money supply and the consensus currency that we use as a human race right now. If you're utilizing statutory fiat notes, oh, those are the public. But guess what? We were sitting there talking to a trustee recently. And the trustee says, do you see that the Federal Reserve note says it's for public and private debts? It's for public and private debts, so it can be utilized through public and private. But oh no, I got to figure out how to expand the debt on the public side because that's what they're doing because they don't know how to do it. And then when we tell them to get in contact with our securities agents, or the securities attorneys, that's where you got to pull your pants up and you got to have a conversation now with somebody that's licensed. Guess what? If you go to court, you might actually need their help. They're the regulators, right? They're the people that work with the regulators, right? Are you going to have the pants to pull them up, to get on the line with them? Get in the training and get on the line with them? Oh, I'm trying to issue a security instrument. Who do you think you are? Fortune 500 companies issue securities instruments. What's funny right now is we see this company, Bed Bath and Beyond, in the public currently is going through a bankruptcy, and they say they're shutting down stores, which they're not shutting down everything. They're just shutting down stores. So okay, here we go. It's like asking you, in your life, is your family life structured in a manner in which even if your family was going through a bankruptcy, the CEO, their life is still being paid for, which would be you, the senior trustee, the CEO, or family members that are business people that are managing the family business, which will be the board of the Bed Bath and Beyond, which is a public company. Do you really think these people are not getting their salaries? You think these people are not having their lifestyles paid for, even though the company's going through an underbelly? Of course it is. This is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's business. The statutory may have certain restrictions. Whereas in the private, there's certain freedoms that are afforded because it's not public, it's private. That's the difference. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Christian at trustchristian.com is how you can reach out for trustee training. Christian at trustchristian.com. It's just an email. Feel free to reach out. Somebody asked about getting the training. Uh, Somebody from Stockton. Appreciate Stockton for tuning in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate Stockton for tuning in live, listen to replay. Uh, well, some people typed into the chat a few different comments that some things warrant comment and some things don't. Um, the one thing we'll say is it's not so much that people want to throw something back on someone and catch them slipping. It's people may not be. You have to do your own diligence, quote unquote. You have to do your due diligence, quote unquote. And so it's not a necessarily a they. This is something that we talk to the trustees about when they come through the trustee training, is that wealthy people wrote the laws. So when you're aware that wealthy people wrote the laws, there is no they against you if you know what side you're on. The issue is most people are not, or may not be on the right side because they don't mix. And so when you're on the right side, you know that some things apply to you and some things don't. And that's the difference. It's not so much catching you slipping, it's are you aware of what applies to you, what doesn't, how are you handling yourself in those situations, is it yours still. We still get trustees after being in a training for months, they still say it's theirs, and that's on them because they got to muster up and pony up and say, you know what, I got to figure this out to make sure that I correct what I need to correct so I can be in the best position I need to be in. Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's for you and the family being in the best position you can be in. Bottom line. And how does that happen? That happens by literally putting that public and private doesn't mix on the mirror or on the back of your door when you walk out every day, because this is something that it trains the trustee to say, wow, I got to figure out how to make sure we got this private family banking internal system going on, because as it stands right now, we right now are exposed. We got to build an infrastructure internally, privately. And don't think that we don't have all of our mentors to say that. All of our mentors have always said you build an internal infrastructure, and so why would you not do that? It's not catching you slipping, it's doing the proper thing. But when you don't have the proper education and the proper information, how can you do so? That's why you're enrolling in trustee training. We look forward to hearing from you. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Peace. Enjoy.